All right? Yes, yes. All right. I am so excited to be here. And you guys are like my best new friends. I can get really loud, honey. You're Susie's son, right? You better be in control of me. I'm very hard to be controlled. Okay. I have met so many wonderful people here, and literally, I love women. I do. Before when I was a young teenager and in that dark past that I'll share some of that with you, I didn't like you. You weren't my friend. You're more my enemy. And now I love women. I love to get to know you. And some of the women that have already been here and I've got to meet and have lunch with, it's seriously, I like to have coffee. I just like to get to know you. So what I want to remind you before we really get started today is, don't you love that friend that you came with? Or that sister, mother, whatever, who it might be. And maybe you're here by yourself. And I'm going to even speak to that. But what I want to remind you about is that this day is for you. I'm not here performing. I'm not going to here to do anything great, fantastic. I'm here to tell you about some true life things. And I'm here to encourage you. I didn't get to bring a lot of my props with because I do have lots of them. They've supplied me with some. But what I like to do is I have like a magic wand. There is no magic wand. There's nothing. God is the one that will give me everything I need, but there's no formula that I'm going to tell you. There's no 1, 2, 3 steps that's going to make you feel better today. It's only God that's going to do this for you. So what I'm here to do is just kind of remind you about that, and to let you kind of release anything that you thought that I might be doing, because it's nothing, absolutely nothing that I am doing. It's God who's shining through me, because I used to be a very dark, dark person. I want to share a little bit with you today. As my introduction said, from the age of 12 to about 25 years old, I was drinking actively and doing a lot of street drugs. All the way through my high school years, I was bound to kill myself, basically. I was with people that I shouldn't have been with, that were much older than me. And in my memoir book called Carried by Faith, it goes in great detail about how the people that are alcoholics, drug addicts, how we cannot get out of that lifestyle. There's people that don't understand it and say, why can't you just quit? It doesn't happen just like that. My book really talks about that. It was very hard. It's like prison. It's like hell. I called it hell on earth. You cannot get out, especially if you're young and you get caught into it. Then you're trapped because you have to have these older people get you what you need. So it is a dark, dark past. I eventually wanted to get out of it somewhat. I wanted to control it because I still liked it. So I found this guy. And this guy was in the small town where I was at. There's a lake community up where I grew up. And through a mutual friend, I was introduced to him. Well, he lived in big... Didn't do nothing. Swear. He lived in the big city that was 100 miles away. That big city is where I live right now. Minot, North Dakota. Some of you might have heard of it. It's an Air Force base. Why not Minot? And because freezing's the reason. That's the slogan. And you knew it back there, honey, because you were probably stationed there or something.
Yeah, my husband was stationed near there.
See? There's another one in Grand Forks, which is in the same state. And he grew up in Minot. And Minot is a population of maybe 45 to 50,000. Girls aren't good with numbers, so, it was a big city compared to where I grew up. That's my big city boyfriend. Get it? It was a big city, so that's what I leached on. He took me out. He took me away from what I had created, this big mess. And with that messes just don't leave you. There's lots of trails, right? So I thought that I left it. I did, but it followed me. I turned it into some control drinking, and then I put my magnifying glass on him, and he was the one that had the problem. I didn't. I ended up going to an alcohol treatment center in 1990, and by God's grace, since March 17th of 1990, I have not used or drank at all. So yeah, and that is an amen, because it's a pretty cool thing that I've not done that, because where I was and what I looked like before is nothing like I look today, honey. And that is by God's grace. I refused, and I plugged my ears. I put cotton in my ears to learn about any type of God. I didn't like God because my parents told me that about this God, he was very condemning, and he basically beat me over the head. That's how I interpreted it. So I didn't want nothing to do with God. But God, he comes up and he shows up, right? And so God showed up to me, and my husband eventually went to treatment. We have lived a clean and sober life before we brought children into this world, by, again, God's grace. Does that mean that they're perfect children? I thought that they were going to be, but they're not. And that then brought me to a world of I've either got to make this choice. God is or he isn't. What is your choice? So I want to do this right now because there might be some people in here that don't know who God is. If you don't, I would like you to talk to me or talk to somebody today before you leave, because you can't leave here without knowing who he is. The other people that I'm going to talk to today is the one of you that are kind of like, the fire kind of went out. I want this fire to get restored again. It's got to be burning, honey. And the way I'm going to, you'll see me in a little bit, my personality, you just can't not get excited around me. God's done this. I mean, there's a part of me that's me, but it's like God just does this thing. And then the part of the other person is the ones that are on fire like me. It's like, yeah, we got to stay on fire. How do we do that? We do things like this. Do we do it all the time? No, but sometimes we need to get refreshed. So it's like God is just going to hopefully pour down on you to get that fire going again. Because how are we going to make it? How are we going to do this? This life and this world out here is so complicated. It's nuts. We don't need to talk about it. I can just say that to you. You can go look at anything, Facebook, the news, anything, and it's like nobody has to convince you that it's whacked. So it's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do, the women that know God? We better be stirred up. You just going to sit there and not do anything? We're going to be in some big trouble if we don't. So that's what I want to do today. So those are the major three people. If you don't know God, you need to know him by the end of the day. I can help you with that, or somebody else around here can help you. The ones that are sitting here, that the fire's kind of gone out, you better be, I'm going to be waving that ember on fire. And the ones that are on fire, we're going to have fun today. And no guarantees, but it could happen. I just want to thank so many. This committee has been phenomenal to work with. So if you haven't thanked them yet, please do today. There is approximately, yes, thank you. All the ones that have this pink, the rose-colored t-shirts on, they're the ones that you need to thank. They've been just a blessing. And probably other ones that aren't, they have, I don't know. I better not say that, then I might offend somebody, but there's a lot of people that put this together. So make sure you thank them. The food's going to be phenomenal. I love to eat. We're going to have some great desserts. Cake. You guys do cake here? We do bars and cookies. Anyway, there's lots of things in your, the handout that you've got, whatever you guys call it here. Okay, what I want you to take out right now is one that's called Titus 2, and it's got the pretty colorful ladies up there. And then there's another one called Pass It On, the Heritage of Women, all right? So those are the two that you can refer to while I'm talking right now. And just a few other house cleaning things before I get started. There is a feedback form in there. I love to have feedback because this has been one of 2 live events since COVID, and it's been a real struggle. That's where my gifting is, in-person people. I've done virtual stuff. I can do it. It's not my favorite. So I would love to see any feedback that you have. If you do codes, the little QR code on there, you can just go right on there. It'll take you to the Google form that I have. That's basically the same question. So thank you in advance for that. And there's a basket, if you do the paper ones, there's a basket back on my book table. I have books. I will autograph them today. If we run out of books, they're on Amazon. And the other thing is, if you do want an autograph copy, you can order it off of what's called shopnd.com. Those are the ones that I will actually ship out to you. And if you want to ask later about that again, we'll do that. All right. I'm going to just do a quick prayer for myself. So Father God, I've asked you this morning. I ask you now. You are showing up here. You are here already. This wonderful worship music that we were able to enjoy. And I'm asking you, shine in me like you always have done. In your name, Jesus. Amen. I love to play in my playhouse. How many of you had a playhouse by show of hands? Oh my gosh. You guys have to have a playhouse. Mine was like the size of a little bigger than a garden shed, you know? And I thought mine was a plain Jane. It was just a one room. I had one window. I had like a kitchen set, lots of dishes. I used to make Play-Doh pies and make my brother eat them. You know how that goes with those younger siblings. But I had some friends. They had a 2-story, it was upstairs playhouse. Oh, and they had a bed up there. It was like, this was really cool. I always wanted to go over there and play. I always wanted to go over there and play. A lot of times I was just in my playhouse, and I would dream about this family that I was going to have. Of course, we were going to have this 2-story, beautiful house. It was going to be yellow with white trim, and then there was going to be a white picket fence, some rose bushes around there. I was going to have this wonderful, amazing-looking husband. And then our children, just a few of them, they were going to be beautiful, well-behaved, running around the yard. This was all my playhouse dreams when I was a little girl, right? And all of us as little girls dream those dreams. We have many dreams of what are we going to become? What are we going to be as women? And we have influential women in our lives. Some of us, obviously, we were birthed by a woman. Some of us have that woman in our lives. Some of us don't. Then there are the other spiritual moms that come alongside of us. So there is always a woman that has been in your life that you will remember, or that you can say, that's the one. And there can be several. As we get older, we'll be able to say that, because there can be a lot more than one. So as I want you to reflect today, this sheet called Pass It On, The Heritage of Women. It says on the top what gifts have been shared with you from older women. So as we're talking, I want you to think about that. Some older women, and they can just be, some can be the same age, I guess, it doesn't really matter, but that older woman that has made an impact in your life. Just jot her name down, because I'm going to be referring to this often, so I want you to be thinking about that. In my particular life, my mom, and she's still with us, she's got dementia, and she's in an assisted living right now. My mom has never been extremely key in my life. I took her through hell. I really did. I will talk about her a lot today. We have a good relationship, but it's not the traditional mother and daughter like this relationship. It's not. But there's been many, many women in my life that I would call a spiritual mom. And we need those women. So jot some people's names down. I'll finish the rest of this, because if you're like me, don't just leave me with the rest of the questions hanging. So the rest of the questions are, what gifts can you share as a younger woman? So I'm going to be asking you about that. What things can you share with other women? And then the last one is, think of some women and the gift that you can share. So 6 years into this sobriety that I was living in and trying to find God, I kind of knew him, kind of didn't. People were telling me, you needed to get a Bible, you should go to church. And I'm like, I'm not going to church. I don't know. All I knew about Jesus is occasionally when we would be took to church, when I was a little girl, very rarely, so I didn't grow up in the church, but I would get the Bible stories at Sunday school, and it would always be those felt boards with those characters. That's what I knew of Jesus. So that's how limited it was for me. So as this now adult resisting God, people are telling me you need to get a Bible. I'm like, I'm not spending $75 on a Bible. Talking to Miss Thrifty Queen here. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And plus, it was the these and the thous and the those and stuff, and I can't read that, and I don't get it, so what's it going to mean to me? I did have a wonderful spiritual mom said, well, get this one Bible, and then you can read the little footnotes down here, and that will help you understand. So I did that for a couple years. I have not been to any schooling except for God teaching me. Now, are you guys supposed to trust me? That's up to you, because I hope that you've been taught by somebody else is that if it's in here, that's where the truth is at. That's what you got to go by. No matter what I say, you better go check it out for yourself, right? And that's where the truth is at. So I come to you fearful now. I never used to have fear about this. I do now. This is everything to me. So if you don't have a Bible, I beg you to go get one. There's so many that you can find now. Take a friend with you to help you figure it out. This is like my best friend. God's my best friend, but this is his word. And it crushed me that I couldn't bring my big Bible. Carry on is terrible now. 3 ounces? Come on, in 1 quart size bag? And then you can't bring your big Bible with? This should mean more to you than anything. I will hold it on my chest sometimes when life doesn't make sense. I don't know. I'm just telling you what God's done in me, and it's all been through this. I've came to a good church. I came around some good women and men that have told me, read it. I don't get it. Read it again. Call me. Let's pray about it. Let's talk about it. Let's do another Bible study. Let's go find some people online that you like. Let's keep finding out. Get some more books. Okay, so that's what I've done. How about you? Have you done that? Are you a woman? Are you a woman that somebody wants to come to? What can you pass on? And I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty here today. That is not my intent. My intent is to stir you up. Because this is the only thing that we got to go to some days. There's nothing that's going to be making sense out there right now. Nothing. And so I have to go to this and trust this word. Trust the word. God's very real. He's very real. And so wherever your denomination is or whatever you're doing, I am not here to talk about that either. I'm here to talk about the living God that lives in me through the Holy Spirit. I know that there was a man of Jesus that came down and he walked this earth. God himself. He walked this earth just like me and you. But he hung on that cross for my sins that I committed so many of and that I should have, I didn't want to forgive myself. That was one of the hardest things to do. But God gave me the grace to do that. So what kind of woman are you? When through all this stuff, I'm 56 years old. I told these ladies, I don't even remember, it's either 56 or 57. After a while, you forget. It's not that important. And I'm a woman of the 80s, hear me roar, okay? So what ended up happening to me is that I left that little town because everybody told me that I was going to turn into bad words that we can't talk about in church. There were adults that spoke very rudely to me as a teenager. And they wouldn't let their kids hang out with me. Lots of people spoke bad words about me. I wanted to get out of that town. So I escaped from that town. So I was going to go prove to them that I was better than what they were saying. That was my whole goal in life for probably 20 years. I'm going to show you. I can do this. I can do that. Think I can't? Well, I'm going to. I can be ornery yet. They're talking about name tags. They didn't come up to me and make me wear one. But I was telling them yesterday, I don't like name tags. And that's that little orneriness in me. It's like, why? I don't even know. I really don't. But there's always sometimes that stuff in me. It's like, stop it. Wear the name tag. So that's how I used to be all the time. I'm going to show you. So I went to 4 years of college. I was going to graduate. I was going to get a good job, make lots of money. I was going to buy all these great things. I'm going to show you by the outside that I'm living and I'm doing everything that you said I couldn't. I'm doing it. Can't you see? I got an extremely successful job. I'm married. Nice 2-story house. Guy that looks good. No kids, please. And so I was doing it. I was one of the most ugliest women to be around. Not good. I didn't have God in me. I really didn't. So it was like that woman of the 80s, hear me roar. I was, those people, those women that you just don't want to be around. So I was going to tell my husband what he was going to do and where we were going to live, what kind of vehicle we were going to have, who we were going to hang with. That's the kind of woman that I was. And when he was telling me that, well, I want my house to look like this, and I want you to make that for supper, and I want my clothes like this, I'm like, I ain't doing it. Nope, not. So it was this constant battle for the longest time. Then guess what? God shows up and he says, you can't act like that. And I said, oh, yes, I can. I fought God for the longest time. The longest time. When we got married, we went to that marriage counseling before most couples get married. And it was a priest. It was an Episcopalian church because I didn't go to church. He didn't, yada, yada. But anyways, there's this priest, older guy, and he says you need to pick out some of these verses for your wedding. And so why did I even want a church wedding? Well, because everybody else did it. I wanted to be everybody else. I wanted to show you that I had this beautiful wedding, blah, blah, blah. And so then he says, pick out these verses. What? Well, here's a selection. Well, I had to go find a Bible because I didn't have one. My mom gave me one, so I found it somewhere, and I looked them up. That was a chore because you don't know how to find things in a Bible. And so then, they had this O word in there. And I was like, no, you are not going to have a verse that says that O word in there. No way. My soon-to-be husband's laughing at me going, what's such a big deal? I'm like, I'm not. What is that? Obey. I'm not going to be obeying you. Okay, so then let's go to where this is not one of the verses, but this is where God has brought me to. And I'm going to read this. It's in the NIV. I actually prefer the NLT. There's so many different versions too. So again, whatever you like, just go figure that out. But this is in the NIV. So I'm just going to read it. It's right on the top first. Likewise, teach the older women to be reverent in the way they live, not to be slanderers or addicted to much wine, but to teach what is good. Then they can urge the younger women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, and to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God. Yeah, okay, there you go. Woo! By a raise of hands, who has ever done a study on Titus 2 women? A handful. Okay, and I'm not going to go extremely in depth, and I'm not going to go over all of this because that's not how I teach. I teach by a lot more of example, but I want to tell you that what I do now, not before, I sit and tear apart words. I'm a word lover now. And I wanted to know about all these words, and that's where you can look at this study here. Well, what does likewise mean? What does reverent mean? So that's how I go through stuff. It's like, what's that slander mean? Addicted to much wine? I knew what that one was. It was like, to teach what's good. What's good? And then it's like, then. I get really hung up on the thens, the buts, and the so's in the Bible. It's really interesting. We could have a whole conversation on that. So what does then mean? That's what I like to do. So then it tells us, what are we supposed to be doing? Well, okay, most of us can do the love the husband and the children part. Be self-controlled. Well, what does that mean if I have to really think about it and do it? Busy at home. We can be busy at home, but what are we doing being busy at home? Be kind, okay. And that means there's more. To be subject. Okay, what's that mean? So there's another one. And the one that says that no one will malign. What the world is that? So this is what I've done, and I really would love for you to take this and study it yourself. I'm going to refer to it, but I'm not going to detail it like some other teachers do. What God did with my obey part is that he did a really interesting thing. I was working full time. I had small children, and I'd been praying to be an obedient wife. Well, you know when you start praying for something, you know what's going to happen. You're going to get hit with it. I did. And God said, start making your husband lunch. I'm like, okay. Whenever I want to, sure, I'll make him lunch. No, make him lunch every day. No, that's not going to work in my schedule because I already have to do dit. That's not going to work. It has to fit in my convenient schedule. That's not what he wanted to do. What I ended up doing is making lunch for him every single day with a note with kindness in it. I'm telling you that because you know that I really didn't want to do it. And I really didn't want to do it for the longest time. However, I overheard a conversation that he was having on the phone one time, and he said, you wouldn't believe my wife, she makes me lunch every day, and she puts a note in there. He said that to somebody. And I was like, is that like, I couldn't believe that it was actually doing something for him because I was like, it's all about me, me. I can't do this. Okay, I'll do it. So it was nothing about him. What was I doing? Now I know it was like pouring blessings on him, kindness. We both come from crazy backgrounds. So it was like, I was loving on him. The gifts, his love language is gifts and words of acknowledgement. So it was like wonderful. I didn't know nothing about that yet either. So, these are the things that God made me do. That was, 20-some years ago. I still do that. Is that bizarre and weird and stupid? It might be to some of you. But you know what? That is how God taught me to the beginning part of being an obedient wife. Some people even just cringe like I used to about this obedient wife thing. They're just like, nails going down the chalkboard or whatever. And I'm not here to convince you. I'm just telling you what God did in me. And then I started being a little bit more respectful to him. Like, for instance, on something like this, I would just inform him that this is what I'm doing. There was never this, well, what do you think? You think I should do this, or would it be okay? Or, could you take care of the kids? No, it was just like, I'm doing this. And God changed me. He kept on changing and molding me into this different woman. So that is my O story that I like to talk about being an obedient wife with my lunch notes. And then I became more and more hungry because I could see that God was doing something in me and in him. I started getting more soaked up in this. This is real. This is alive. I like this. Again, I never grew up in church. I didn't know about, well, you do this and you sit in this pew every Sunday and you do this and you do that and you kneel or, whatever. I didn't know any of those things. So it's like I didn't know that. So I just came pure, just like feed me. And I seen things changing. So it's like when you get a good book and you see things, you're going to tell somebody else. It's like, who can I tell? Well, then, you get that baby Christian yapping. You're like, well, maybe you should learn a little bit more. Okay, well, let's do that. So I started again reading and reading. So please get that Bible. And for you that have them here, this afternoon I'm going to be referring to lots of different scriptures. So you're going to want to have one or take out your phone. Some of the older people will get offended when younger people take out their phone in church. It's like people are looking at their Bible. And I don't like it either. I'm getting to be that older one. I still don't think I am, but I am. And so anyway, it's like I got to remember that. Oh, yeah, they're looking at their Bible. I bet they better be looking at their Bible. Okay, so, but we're going to talk a lot more about scripture stuff this afternoon. Okay, so here are the things from that older woman from Titus 2 that we want to learn about. You that are older in age, and I'm going to say that we're 50 and over. Those are the older ones. And you that are under 50, you're the younger ones, just for sake of talking about today. It says, what are the older women, what are we striving to do or not do to show the younger women the good qualities of being a good older woman in terms of characteristics? It says quiet and respectful. That's a lot right there. I'm not quiet. The people that I've been hanging with already know that about me. I can be quiet. I really can. But I'm not quiet overall. Respectful. That is a big thing that we could talk about forever in this society right now. However, I'm just talking about, I'm going to keep it simple because that's how I am. So are we being respectful and offering help to others and, not just thinking of self anymore? Just the simple things. Are we being respectful? No gossip. That has been a hard one in my secular life when I was working outside the home. Gossip is huge, especially if you're working outside the home and you got the coffee room, lunch room, copy room. And sometimes people that are like in a closed office door, they've got candy on their desk. Those are always the people that you're going to go find, especially if they have chocolate. And so you're going to start saying things that maybe you wouldn't normally. Why does that happen? The reason why it happens is because we think that we need to talk. And silence can get uncomfortable. But we don't need to open our mouth sometimes. And I always go by that basic rule about gossip. If I can't say it to you or ask you about it, then I don't need to be talking about it or repeating it. I always go with that. If I can't ask the horse, ask the horse about something, that's an old cliche or phrase. I don't need to. So if I want to find out, are you pregnant? I should probably just go up to you and say, are you pregnant? Don't do that, because I've done that before. And then you only do it once, and then you never do it again. But there's things like people will say like a sibling or somebody, maybe got in jail or whatever. It's like if it's appropriate and you want to find out about it, why don't you go ask the person about it? If you don't want to ask them about it, you don't feel comfortable, the subject never comes up, then do we need to repeat it to anybody? So those are the things I'm talking about gossip. Think about it. Can I say it to that person? Can I ask them about it? It gets really delicate. Not a heavy drinker. Now, I am not here to condone anybody about drinking. Not at all. I've been in recovery for all those years, 32, and it doesn't bother me that you drink. I don't care. But if you're going to get sloshy drunk, I'm not going to hang around with you. You can have a couple drinks. If you like to do that, that's fine. But heavy drinkers. Now, that can be your own definition too. But to me, it's like what happens and why they talk often about it in the Bible is that what happens is you get loose lips. Then you get into gossip. Then you get into saying things, telling bad jokes that you maybe aren't appropriate. It just goes on and on. That's why I always refer to that. Drink's fine, whatever, but don't be doing that. And you're just going to get yourself in a whole lot more trouble. And it says, teach goodness. All right, so we need to pass on this heritage of women. Why? Well, who is going to take over that gave to us? That woman that you're thinking of, that you thought of, can you be that woman? You may not be her exactly, but can you be somebody that somebody else wants something from? Are you? We all should be. So I want you to think, if you haven't already, but thinking about stuff that what can you pass on? I can pass on. I am passing on my story, my life story, my goals in my book, why I wrote my books, was to tell it from my side of the view, for my future generations. I don't want my kids to try to tell this complicated story. That was what my goal is. So I pass on my story. I pass on home-cooked meals. I love to cook. I love to eat. I love to make jelly. Cassidy and her daughter made jelly yesterday. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff I love. I love to garden, to quilt. I am a very hard worker. I love physical work. I love a positive attitude. I'm going to pass that on. I am. I pass it on already. So what do you pass on? It's not always these skill things. It's maybe a personality part in you. You're going to be passing on, do you have children yet? You're going to be passing on that music. You already have started it. And that's that part to me. It's like, what are we passing on? All right. We tend to be women now in our society that we're just hanging back, sitting on the sideline. Somebody might come over here every so often. Maybe I'll help them. We're texting. Nobody's asking us for help. Back in the day, we'd even go over to the neighbors and ask for something. You don't do that either. You don't even know your neighbors sometimes. And so it's like, how do we pass on something? How do we pass a skill on to somebody? So we can't be just sitting back. So sometimes when things happen, like this ladies' retreat or ladies' day, there's skills that can be passed down. There's things that need to be passed down. The older women have to pass them on and then what? Let go. And some of them hate it. They're like, yeah, but you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. It's like, no, I don't. And then I like to do it the opposite just because you said I couldn't. Now I'm going to. And I don't mean that rudely, but my point is that as older women, we have to sit there and say, well, it's okay to let go of it too. It's okay to sit back and watch whatever they're going to do. And I'm getting to that stage. It's like, yeah, you never know what they're going to come up with. It's going to be cool and different and neat. And it attracts the younger people. That's what we have to do. And some of us are so afraid of it. Why? Let go. Just let it be. It's that uncomfortableness in it, us. So if you're one of those people that doesn't like to let go of things, all I'm saying today is ask yourself why. That's your own stuff. You know, we spill out of us some of that ick. And it can be, we don't even think about it sometimes. You're like going, oh. But if it's been brought to your attention or you realize it, it's like, just think about it. Why am I hanging on to this? Why do I even care about it anymore? You know, type of thing like that, because I have. It's like, that's what we need to do and think about. And another thing that I like to carry on, and some of you may think about it, I love to carry on prayer. I'm a prayer warrior. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Never stop praying. And how do we do that for other people? That's the other thing that I'm going to carry on to people. All right, so I have been set free of a lot of things, and that's what I want you guys to be set free of too. One of my visuals, I like to have visual things so you'll remember. If it wasn't me, you'll remember. Maybe you'll remember a visual. And if we don't let some of this go, be these more carefree women of going, yeah, I'll help you. I don't need to hang on to this anymore. I want to pass this on. I want to show you how to quilt. I want to show you how to bake bread. I'm thinking of cooking stuff and things I do. So whatever your thing is, that's what you can imagine right now. But if we don't do that, it's not going to get passed on. And we get held down. And what do we get held down by? We get held down by this. I usually have a really clean chain, but it's a chain. And I want this visual to be with you. This is very heavy, and it's usually, I can put it around my neck, and I won't today. But it holds us down. It will weigh us down if we don't let go of some of this stuff. Why? Why are we hanging on to it? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to represent? God. I told my kids, who do you represent when you leave this house? First and foremost, God. Then you represent this family. Then you represent yourself. If you don't do some of this stuff, you're going to be like this chain. And some of us have gotten free from it hanging around our necks, but we still have it around our ankles, and we're carrying it like a ball and chain. We carry it everywhere we go. I want you to be set free. Even if it's one thing today, just let that baby go. And there's so many things that we can get hung on to. So what I want to have you do right now, again, is think about some of your talents and your skills and your contributions. So think about them right now and write those down. I'm going to take a drink of water and take a little break here for a second while you guys literally write them down. I'm expecting you to do something. Are you passing on your wisdom, your knowledge, your beliefs? Be thinking of your next generation. In your family, your children, your grandchildren. You need to carry on your family traditions, your skills, your beliefs, your morals, your talents, your faith, and whatever that is, and what's important to you. Are you carrying that on? Do you carry on fun holidays, birthdays? Do you go to everybody's sporting events? Do you show up and you cheer? Do you love to do different activities? Do you love to bless people with meals when they're at home and they're needed? Do you love to write greeting cards and send them out? Okay, so now I'm going to make you think of, I put 5, but you can put however many you want, but think of women that popped into your head when I first read this to you. Write some women's name down that just came to your mind during this time. The women that I've met here today, or this weekend already, whatever weekend, I am so messed up with my days, but these few days that I've been here, there are some unbelievable women. You are all unbelievable. If I sat and talked to each one of you, you all will have a story. Each one of you. Each one of you. And that story is you. Don't ever dog your story thinking it's not important. It's you and who you are and who God made you to be. And you all have a skill and a talent. It doesn't have to be those ones that are physical, like I like to quilt and sew and cook. It doesn't have to be those. It can be your morals and your standards and things like that, all right? So those women that you thought of, I want you to take that now, and you need to pray about that. and see if you can do something with it. You know, I don't know what will happen, but think about what I've shared and I'll be sharing today, and you just decide what you want to do with this. Because we cannot keep sitting in the background. Sometimes we have to actively go out. When God puts something on your heart, don't sit and think about it for a long time, because then it won't happen. It just won't. I've done that for years. So when God does stuff like, go teach these young girls how to make pillowcases, I'm like, I don't want to do that, because that means, little girls' fingers and sewing and, all that stuff. That's complicated. I don't want to do that. And then it keeps coming up the next day and the next day, and you're like, geez, okay, I'll do it. So those are the things I'm talking about. Has God done something like that to you that you've went and turned your head on? You need to think about it. That's how I get those nudges, It's like, just go do it. Don't be sitting there going, well, I wish they'd call me and ask me. They're not. That's not happening in our day and age right now, all right? So I'm getting real hungry, so I'm going to be wrapping this up. There's some really good food. Did I tell you I like food? I think I told you that. So we're going to have lunch, and I will make sure before I dismiss you that they don't do it wrong, because there might be some systematic thing that has to happen, because I like to always be orderly. I really do. Sometimes I can come off sarcastic. I love to have fun, and I go with the flow, so I hope I didn't say that wrong. I can do that often. Just like, are you pregnant? No. Well, I want you to, if you want to close your eyes, you want to stare at me, whatever you want to do, but I want you to think about what I'm going to read you, okay? So I really want you just to kind of take all that I said and grab it in a little capsule and put it in your purse and just listen, please. Women have the strength that'll amaze men. We carry hardships. We carry burdens. We hold happiness, love, and joy. We smile when we want to scream. We sing when we want to cry. We cry when we're happy and laugh when we're nervous. We fight for what we believe in. We stand up for injustice. We don't take no for an answer when we believe there's a better solution. We go without so our family can have. We go to the doctor with a frightened friend. We love unconditionally. We cry when our children excel and cheer when our friends get awards. We're happy when we hear about a birth or a new marriage. Our hearts break when a friend dies. We have sorrow at the loss of family members, yet we are strong, and we are stronger than when we were when we left that situation. We know that a hug and a kiss can heal a broken heart. The endless qualities of a woman, when they are coupled with the fear of God, lead us to honor, worth, success, and enjoyment. Our mission as women must be to pass on our heritage. We must take a stand on what we believe is our position in God's world for women. We must accept each other and our own positions that we take. We must always focus on showing each other love, patience, kindness, and goodness, so that we can pass on the many wonderful attributes that we have for this next generation. How wonderfully made we each are. We are eternally beautiful. It says it in Psalm 139:14. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. Who have mighty power of influence to ignite a new generation of women who will continue to be strong and worthy of their belief that we are women and are that true creation and a gift from God. So please go and pass on what God has given you. Thank you.